Have you ever looked down at your feet and wondered why they no longer feel like they belong to you? Maybe they burn as if you're walking across hot pavement, even though the floor is cool. Perhaps they tingle with thousands of tiny pins and needles the moment you lie down to sleep. Or maybe they've gone strangely numb, making every step feel uncertain, as though you're walking on thick foam instead of solid ground. For some people, it begins in the fingertips. Buttons become harder to fasten. Coins slip through the fingers. A coffee mug suddenly feels heavier than it used to. These changes often appear quietly, almost unnoticed at first. But once they begin, they rarely disappear on their own. If any of this sounds familiar, I want you to know something important. These sensations are not simply a normal part of getting older. They are messages. Your nervous system is trying to tell you that something deeper may be happening beneath the surface. The encouraging news is that nerves are living tissue. They depend on the right nutrients, healthy blood flow, and a supportive environment to function well. And in many cases, identifying and correcting an underlying problem can help improve symptoms or slow further damage. The sooner you understand what your nerves need, the better your chances of protecting them. Welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. James, your virtual health guide. Everything you'll hear today is based on current scientific understanding and is intended to help you better understand your body. This video is educational and should never replace the advice of your own healthcare professional, especially if your symptoms are severe or changing rapidly. Before we talk about the vitamins that may help support damaged nerves, we first need to answer a much more important question. Why do nerves become damaged in the first place? Because here's the truth most people never hear. A vitamin cannot rebuild a nerve that is still being injured every single day. It's a bit like repairing the roof of a house while rain continues pouring inside. Unless the source of the damage is identified, even the best supplements often produce disappointing results. So let's begin by understanding exactly what is happening inside your body. Imagine your nervous system as the world's most advanced communication network. Your brain acts as the central command center. Your spinal cord is the main highway. From there, billions of tiny nerve fibers spread throughout your body like an endless network of electrical cables. They reach your shoulders, your fingertips, your knees, your toes, even the smallest muscles controlling your balance and coordination. Every second of every day, these nerves carry millions of messages. They tell your brain when your feet touch the floor. They allow you to feel the warmth of a cup of tea. They help you grip a steering wheel, climb stairs, zip your jacket, and keep your balance without consciously thinking about it. They even help regulate automatic functions you rarely notice, including sweating, digestion, blood pressure, and heart rate. Most of us never think about this incredible system because it works silently in the background. Until one day, it doesn't. One message travels a little slower than it should, then another. Soon the signals become distorted. Instead of accurately reporting what is happening, damaged nerves begin sending confusing information. A gentle bedsheet touching your feet suddenly feels painfully sharp. A cool floor seems to burn. A light touch feels like an electric shock, or perhaps the opposite happens. You accidentally step on something sharp and barely notice. You burn your fingers while cooking because the warning signal never reaches your brain. This confusion isn't happening because you're imagining things. It's happening because the communication system itself has been damaged. Think about an electrical wire running through your home. As long as the protective coating around that wire remains intact, electricity flows safely and efficiently. But if that protective covering begins to crack, the signal weakens. Sometimes electricity leaks. Sometimes sparks appear. Sometimes nothing works at all. Your nerves have a very similar protective covering called myelin. Myelin acts like insulation around electrical wiring. It protects each nerve fiber while helping signals travel rapidly and accurately from one end of the body to the other. When myelin becomes damaged, or when the nerve itself is injured, the communication begins to fail, signals slow down. Some disappear completely. Others fire when they shouldn't. That is why neuropathy rarely feels the same from one person to another. For one individual, the earliest symptom may be burning feet every evening. For another, it's constant numbness. Someone else notices weakness in their hands, while another person struggles with balance and begins stumbling for no obvious reason. The symptoms may look completely different, yet the underlying problem is often the same. The nerves can no longer communicate properly. Here's where things become even more interesting. Many people believe neuropathy is a disease. In reality, neuropathy is usually a symptom. It's your body's way of saying, something is damaging me. That something can be very different from person to person. For some people, years of elevated blood sugar slowly injure delicate nerve fibers. For others, it begins with vitamin deficiencies that quietly develop over many years without obvious warning signs. Sometimes medications interfere with nutrient absorption. Sometimes poor circulation starves nerves of oxygen. Sometimes chronic inflammation gradually attacks the protective myelin covering. Even poor posture, repetitive movements, or compressed nerves in the spine can contribute to symptoms that feel remarkably similar. This is exactly why two people with burning feet may need completely different treatment plans. And it's also why simply taking random supplements from the internet often leads to disappointment. The goal isn't just to silence symptoms. The goal is to understand why your nerves are struggling in the first place. Now here's something that surprises many people. Your nerves are among the slowest tissues in the body to heal. Unlike a small cut on your skin that may close within days, nerve tissue often recovers gradually over weeks or months because every damaged nerve fiber must repair itself cell by cell. That process requires energy, oxygen, healthy blood flow, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and specific vitamins that support nerve function. If even one of those pieces is missing, recovery becomes much more difficult. Think of a construction crew trying to rebuild a damaged bridge. If they don't have enough steel, cement, workers, or equipment, progress slows dramatically. Your body works much the same way. It cannot rebuild healthy nerves without the raw materials needed for repair. This is where vitamins become so important, not because they're miracle cures, but because many of them serve as essential building blocks that your nervous system simply cannot function without. Unfortunately, millions of adults over the age of 60 unknowingly develop deficiencies that gradually weaken nerve health long before symptoms become obvious. Sometimes the reason is surprisingly simple. As we grow older, our stomach naturally produces less acid, making it harder to absorb certain nutrients, especially vitamin B12. Some medications prescribed for diabetes, acid reflux, or stomach ulcers can further reduce absorption. Others eat reasonably healthy diets but still struggle because their digestive system simply isn't extracting nutrients as efficiently as it once did. In other words, you may be eating enough vitamins, yet your nerves may still be starving. And that brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding neuropathy. Most people spend months searching for creams, painkillers, or temporary solutions to numbness and burning sensations. Very few ever ask a much more powerful question. What are my nerves missing? Because sometimes the answer isn't another medication. Sometimes it's identifying a nutritional deficiency that's been quietly progressing for years. But here's where we have to be careful. Not every vitamin marketed for nerve health actually helps. Some have strong scientific evidence. Others have only limited research. And believe it or not, taking excessive amounts of certain vitamins can actually make nerve symptoms worse instead of better. So how do you know which vitamins truly deserve your attention, and which ones are simply expensive promises wrapped inside colorful bottles? That's exactly what we'll uncover next. Because the first vitamin we're about to discuss is considered by many neurologists to be one of the most important nutrients for protecting the nervous system, and yet millions of older adults don't realize they're deficient until nerve damage has already begun. If you've been living with burning feet, tingling hands, or unexplained numbness, there's one vitamin that deserves your attention before almost any other. Not because it's trendy, not because supplement companies promote it, but because without enough of it, your nervous system simply cannot maintain the protective coating that allows your nerves to communicate properly. I'm talking about vitamin B12. Think back to that electrical wire we discussed earlier. Imagine the insulation around that wire slowly cracking year after year. At first, nothing obvious happens. The current still flows, the lights still turn on, everything appears normal. Then one day the lights begin flickering. Soon entire sections stop working. Your nerves behave in a remarkably similar way. Vitamin B12 plays a critical role in maintaining myelin, the protective sheath surrounding your nerve fibers. Without adequate B12, that protective layer gradually weakens, making nerves more vulnerable to signals. The frightening part is that this process often happens silently. Many people don't realize they're becoming deficient until symptoms have already appeared. It usually begins subtly. Perhaps your feet feel strangely cold. Maybe your fingertips tingle occasionally. You assume you've slept in an awkward position. Weeks become months. Months become years. Gradually, the tingling becomes more frequent. The numbness spreads higher into the feet. Walking feels less steady. Simple tasks become frustrating. And because these changes happen so slowly, many people assume it's simply part of aging. But healthy aging should not steal sensation from your hands and feet. So why is vitamin B12 deficiency so common after the age of 60? The answer has very little to do with intelligence or healthy eating. It's biology. Your stomach produces a protein called intrinsic factor, which works together with stomach acid to absorb vitamin B12 from food. As we grow older, stomach acid production often declines naturally. Without enough stomach acid, even a nutritious meal containing meat, fish, eggs, or dairy may not provide your body with enough usable vitamin B12. In other words, you may be eating the right foods, yet your nerves are quietly becoming deficient. There's another reason this deficiency is becoming increasingly common. Millions of adults take medications every day that can interfere with B12 absorption without realizing it. One of the most well-known examples is metformin, a medication widely prescribed for type 2 diabetes. Long-term use has been associated with reduced vitamin B12 absorption in some people. Another common group includes acid-reducing medications, often taken for chronic heartburn or reflux. These medicines can make it harder for the stomach to release vitamin B12 from food. This doesn't mean anyone should stop taking prescribed medication. Far from it. It simply means that if you've been using these medicines for years, it's worth discussing vitamin B12 monitoring with your healthcare provider. Sometimes a simple blood test reveals what months, or even years, of unexplained symptoms could not. Now here's something many people find surprising. Vitamin B12 deficiency doesn't only affect sensation, it can also affect balance. Have you ever noticed yourself looking down more often while walking? Do stairs suddenly require extra concentration? Do you feel slightly unsteady in dim lighting? That's because your nerves don't just detect pain. They constantly tell your brain exactly where your feet are positioned. When those signals become unreliable, your balance suffers. Your brain begins receiving incomplete information, and that uncertainty can increase the risk of falls, especially later in life. But vitamin B12 is only one piece of a much larger picture. Because even with adequate B12, your nerves remain vulnerable if another powerful process continues unchecked. That process is oxidative stress. You've probably heard the word oxidative stress before. It sounds complicated. In reality, the concept is surprisingly simple. Imagine leaving a bicycle outside in the rain for several years. Little by little, rust begins to appear. The damage doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually until the metal becomes weaker. Something very similar can happen inside the human body. Every day, normal metabolism produces unstable molecules known as free radicals. In healthy amounts, your body manages them quite well. But aging, chronic inflammation, smoking, uncontrolled blood sugar, poor diet, lack of sleep, and environmental stress can dramatically increase their production. When free radicals overwhelm your body's natural defenses, they begin damaging healthy cells, including nerve cells. This ongoing process is called oxidative stress, and it's one reason damaged nerves often struggle to heal. Fortunately, your body has remarkable ways of protecting itself. One of the nutrients receiving significant scientific attention for this purpose is alpha-lipoic acid. You may not hear about it as often as vitamin C or vitamin D, but researchers have studied alpha-lipoic acid extensively, particularly in people with diabetic neuropathy. Unlike many antioxidants that work in only one environment, alpha-lipoic acid is unusual because it functions in both water and fat-based tissues. That allows it to reach many different parts of the body. Think of it as a maintenance crew traveling throughout a city, repairing damaged areas wherever they're found. Its primary role is not to numb pain. Instead, it helps reduce oxidative stress while supporting healthy cellular energy production. Healthy nerves require enormous amounts of energy every second. When energy production declines, repair becomes much slower. Some clinical studies suggest that alpha-lipoic acid supplementation may help improve burning, tingling, and discomfort in certain people with diabetic neuropathy, although results vary from person to person. That's an important point. No supplement works for everyone. There is no magic capsule. But when used appropriately under medical guidance, alpha-lipoic acid has shown enough promise to become part of many discussions surrounding nerve health. You might also wonder, can food provide alpha-lipoic acid? Yes, although usually in relatively small amounts. Foods such as spinach, broccoli, tomatoes, Brussels sprouts, and organ meats naturally contain it. These foods contribute to an overall healthy diet, but therapeutic doses studied for neuropathy are generally much higher than what food alone provides. That is why some people discuss supplementation with their physician. Of course, supplements are not appropriate for everyone. People taking medications that lower blood sugar, for example, should be especially cautious because alpha-lipoic acid may enhance those effects. Again, this is why individual medical advice matters. Now let's move to another nutrient that often surprises people: vitamin D. Most people associate vitamin D with strong bones. Few realize it also influences the health of muscles, the immune system, inflammation, and nerve function. Think about how many older adults spend much less time outdoors than they once did. Retirement, limited mobility, chronic illness, colder climates, or simply avoiding the sun can gradually reduce vitamin D production in the skin. At the same time, aging skin naturally becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. It's another slow process, one you rarely notice. Yet over time, low vitamin D levels may contribute to muscle weakness, poorer balance, increased inflammation, and generalized aches that can overlap with neuropathy symptoms. Some people describe their legs as constantly heavy. Others complain that climbing stairs feels strangely exhausting. Many assume they're simply getting older. Sometimes correcting a deficiency becomes one important piece of the solution, not the entire answer, but an important piece. And this highlights a pattern you'll notice throughout today's discussion. Healthy nerves rarely depend on one vitamin alone. They depend on an entire network of nutrients working together. Take away one important piece, the system begins struggling. Take away several, symptoms become much more likely. But here's where many people accidentally make a serious mistake. Once they hear about vitamin B12 or alpha-lipoic acid or vitamin D, they rush online, order several high-dose supplements, and begin taking everything at once. It feels proactive. It feels logical. Unfortunately, that's not always the safest approach, because one commonly used vitamin, when taken in excessive amounts over long periods, has actually been linked to nerve damage rather than nerve healing. It sounds almost impossible, but it's true. And understanding that vitamin could save you from making a mistake that many well-intentioned people never see coming. But here's something that gives many people hope. Nerves are unlike many other tissues in the body. When the cause of the damage is identified early, and when those nerves are given the nutrients they need, they can often begin repairing themselves. Not overnight, not like flipping a switch, but slowly, steadily, month after month. Think about a tree after a storm. If the roots are still alive, new branches eventually begin to grow. Your nerves work in much the same way. The first step isn't simply taking more vitamins. It's giving your nerves the exact nutrients they need in the right amounts while removing the things that continue damaging them every single day. Let's start with one nutrient neurologists talk about more than almost any other: vitamin B12. If your nerves had a favorite vitamin, this would probably be it. Every nerve in your body is wrapped inside a protective coating called myelin. Earlier, we compared it to the insulation around an electrical wire. Vitamin B12 helps build and maintain that insulation. Without enough B12, those protective layers slowly begin breaking apart. Messages traveling through the nerve become weaker, slower, sometimes completely distorted. That's why people with low B12 often experience numbness before pain. They may lose sensation in their toes. Their fingertips stop recognizing temperature properly. Buttons become harder to fasten. Coins become difficult to pick up. Walking in the dark suddenly feels uncertain because the brain isn't receiving clear signals from the feet anymore. Many people don't realize they have a B12 deficiency because it develops gradually. It may take years before symptoms become obvious, and after age 60, the risk rises dramatically. Why? Because the stomach naturally produces less acid as we age. That stomach acid is essential for absorbing vitamin B12 from food. Even if you're eating meat, eggs, fish, or dairy every day, your body may no longer have absorption for years without obvious warning. This is why many neurologists recommend checking blood levels whenever unexplained numbness or burning begins. Sometimes the answer isn't hidden in an expensive scan. Sometimes it's discovered with one simple blood test. Now here's something important. Taking enormous doses of B12 doesn't automatically repair nerves overnight. If a deficiency exists, correcting it can stop further damage and support healing, but recovery usually takes time. Healthy nerves regenerate slowly. Many people begin noticing improvements over several months rather than several days. Patience matters. Consistency matters even more. Now let's move to another nutrient that quietly works alongside B12, folate. Also known as vitamin B9, think of folate as one of your body's repair engineers. Whenever tissues need rebuilding, including damaged nerves, folate helps produce new healthy cells. It also works closely with vitamin B12. These two vitamins function almost like partners. One cannot perform efficiently without the other. Low folate can produce symptoms remarkably similar to B12 deficiency: burning feet, tingling hands, muscle weakness, poor balance, fatigue, even memory problems. Good food sources include spinach, asparagus, beans, lentils, avocados, broccoli, and leafy green vegetables. But again, absorption problems, digestive diseases, alcohol use, and certain medications can reduce folate levels even when the diet looks healthy. Now comes another vitamin that surprises many people: vitamin B6. Unlike B12, this vitamin behaves very differently. Your nerves absolutely need vitamin B6. It helps produce neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that allow nerves to communicate with muscles and with the brain. Without enough B6, nerves struggle to send signals properly. But here's the fascinating part. Too much vitamin B6 can also damage nerves. Yes, the very vitamin that supports healthy nerves can become toxic when taken in excessive amounts over long periods. This is one reason experts recommend avoiding high-dose supplements unless they're medically necessary. More is not always better. Balance is what matters. Many people unknowingly consume several supplements containing B6 at the same time: a multivitamin, a nerve formula, an energy drink, another immune supplement. Individually, they may seem harmless. Together, they may provide far more B6 than the body actually needs. If you're already taking supplements and your neuropathy continues getting worse, it's worth reviewing every label with your healthcare provider. Sometimes solving the puzzle means removing something, not adding another pill. Now let's talk about another nutrient that has received enormous scientific attention during the last decade: alpha-lipoic acid. Although technically not a vitamin, many neurologists recommend it because of its remarkable effects on diabetic neuropathy. Think about what constant inflammation does to nerves. Imagine rust slowly eating away at delicate electrical wiring. That's similar to what oxidative stress does inside the body. Alpha-lipoic acid works like an antioxidant shield. It helps neutralize damaging free radicals, reduces inflammation, supports healthy blood flow, and may improve how nerve cells produce energy. Several clinical studies have found that people with diabetic neuropathy experienced reductions in burning pain, tingling, and numbness after taking alpha-lipoic acid consistently under medical supervision. It's not magic, but for many people, it becomes one valuable piece of a much larger recovery plan. And here's something encouraging. Many foods naturally contain small amounts: spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, organ meats. Even though food alone usually doesn't provide therapeutic amounts, building meals around these foods supports overall nerve health alongside a balanced lifestyle. But nutrients alone are only half the story, because even the healthiest nerves cannot fully recover if something continues damaging them every single day. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next. Now let's talk about something that many people completely overlook. You can take the best vitamins in the world. You can eat healthy foods every single day. You can spend hundreds of dollars on supplements. But if you continue doing the things that damage your nerves, healing becomes almost impossible. Imagine trying to repair a roof while someone keeps removing the new shingles every night. No matter how hard you work, the damage never truly stops. Your nerves are no different. They need protection just as much as they need nutrition. The first silent enemy is uncontrolled blood sugar. You don't have to be diagnosed with diabetes for high blood sugar to affect your nerves. Even prediabetes can slowly damage the tiny blood vessels that feed oxygen and nutrients to your nerves. Think of those blood vessels as tiny garden hoses. When too much sugar circulates through them, can slowly damage the tiny blood vessels that feed oxygen and nutrients to your nerves. Think of those blood vessels as tiny garden hoses. When too much sugar circulates through them day after day, the inside walls become inflamed. Blood flow becomes weaker. Eventually, the nerves begin starving. Less oxygen, less nutrition, less repair. This is why so many people first notice numbness in their toes. The longest nerves in the body require the most blood supply. They're usually the first to suffer. If you haven't had your blood sugar checked recently, especially if you're over 50, it's worth discussing with your healthcare provider. Sometimes neuropathy is actually the first warning sign that blood sugar has been elevated for years. The second enemy is alcohol. Many people are surprised by this. Alcohol is directly toxic to nerve cells. Heavy drinking over many years can destroy both the nerves themselves and the protective myelin surrounding them. At the same time, alcohol also reduces your body's ability to absorb important nutrients like vitamin B1, folate, and vitamin B12. It's a double attack. The nerves receive less nutrition while experiencing more damage. For people already struggling with neuropathy, reducing alcohol consumption can become one of the most important decisions for long-term recovery. Now let's talk about movement. Many people stop exercising because walking hurts. That reaction makes perfect sense. But unfortunately, less movement often leads to worse circulation. And worse circulation means even less oxygen reaches damaged nerves. The goal isn't intense exercise. It's gentle, consistent movement. A short walk, light stretching, swimming, stationary cycling. Even 10 or 15 minutes every day can improve circulation and help deliver nutrients where they're needed most. Think of movement as delivering supplies to a construction site. Without those supplies, repairs slow down. Your nerves depend on healthy blood flow every single day. Sleep also deserves far more attention than it usually receives. Most nerve repair doesn't happen while you're busy. It happens while you're asleep. During deep sleep, your body releases growth factors, repairs damaged tissues, balances inflammation, supports immune function. If pain keeps waking you every night, talk with your healthcare provider. Improving sleep isn't simply about feeling rested. It's part of the healing process itself. Stress is another hidden contributor. When stress becomes chronic, the body produces more cortisol and inflammatory chemicals. Over time, these chemicals may increase pain sensitivity and make neuropathy feel even worse. This doesn't mean the symptoms are all in your head. Far from it. The nerve damage is very real, but reducing stress through breathing exercises, meditation, gentle yoga, or simply spending time outdoors may help calm an overactive nervous system and reduce the intensity of symptoms. Now, before we finish, there are several warning signs that should never be ignored. If you suddenly lose strength in one arm or one leg, seek medical attention immediately. If numbness rapidly spreads over days instead of months, don't wait. If you completely lose sensation in your feet, if wounds refuse to heal, if severe burning pain suddenly becomes unbearable, or if neuropathy is accompanied by difficulty speaking, vision changes, loss of bladder control, or severe weakness, these symptoms require urgent medical evaluation. Neuropathy is often treatable, but some causes require prompt diagnosis. Never assume every tingling sensation is simply aging. Now let's bring everything together. Healthy nerves need 3 things. First, the right building materials. That includes vitamin B12, folate, vitamin B6 in appropriate amounts, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, and for some people, alpha-lipoic acid under medical supervision. Second, healthy circulation, daily movement, stable blood sugar, good sleep, and adequate hydration. Third, protection from ongoing damage, reducing alcohol, limiting highly processed foods, managing chronic conditions, working with your doctor to identify nutrient deficiencies, medication side effects, or underlying illnesses before permanent nerve damage develops. Remember, neuropathy is not simply something you have to accept because you're getting older. For many people, it's the result of a problem that can be identified, managed, and sometimes significantly improved. Your nerves are constantly trying to repair themselves. The question is whether you're giving them the tools they need, or unknowingly making their job harder every single day. Small choices repeated consistently often create the biggest improvements. One healthy meal, one daily walk, one good night's sleep, one conversation with your doctor. Over weeks and months, those small decisions can add up to something extraordinary. If today's video helped you better understand your symptoms, write the words, "My nerves can heal," in the comments below. Making that simple commitment can be the first step toward taking action instead of simply living with the pain. If you found this information valuable, please give this video a like and share it with someone who may be silently struggling with numbness, burning feet, or tingling hands. And don't forget to subscribe, because every week we bring you evidence-based health information designed to help you stay stronger, healthier, and more independent after 50. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the